Koschei the Immortal. Koschei never feared death, because he made sure his own death lived somewhere else entirely. In Slavic folklore, Koschei's soul was hidden inside a needle, the needle inside an egg, the egg inside a duck, the duck inside a hare, the hare locked in an iron chest, and the chest buried under an ancient oak on a remote island. Break the needle, and the immortal king dies instantly, no matter how far away he stands. This isn't just a clever plot device. Folklorists call it a life token, or external soul motif, and it shows up across cultures far beyond Slavic myth, from Egyptian tales to Scottish folklore about giants hiding their hearts in eggs. Koschei may be one of the oldest surviving versions of this idea, first written down in 19th century Russian fairy tale collections, though scholars trace the oral roots back centuries earlier. His name itself carries a second layer. Koschei in Old East Slavic meant something close to bony one or captive, a person enslaved or stripped to the bone. Some linguists argue the immortal sorcerer king was originally imagined less as a wizard and more as death itself, wearing a starving prisoner's face. And here's the irony. For all his elaborate defenses, Koschei is consistently undone the same way in every tale, not by a stronger warrior, but by someone patient enough to find a duck. The Kikimora. Every culture in the world has a name for the hag that sits on your chest while you sleep. In Slavic tradition, that's the Kikimora. The Kikimora is a household spirit, but not a benevolent one. It appears at night as an old woman, tiny, bony, with matted hair and claws, and sits on the sleeper's chest, causing nightmares, paralysis, and the sensation of suffocation. Victims wake exhausted. In the worst cases, they stop waking at all. Slavic ethnographic records from the 18th and 19th centuries contain hundreds of accounts of Kikimora visitations, described with the same clinical consistency across regions that had no contact with each other. What those records are describing is sleep paralysis, a neurological event in which the brain wakes before the body does, leaving a person fully conscious but unable to move, often accompanied by hallucinations of a dark figure. Sleep paralysis occurs in roughly 8% of the human population at some point in their lives. It has been documented in every culture that has ever produced written records, and every culture gave it the same explanation. Something got in. The Kikimora arrived in a house when it was built on cursed ground, or when the builder hid a doll inside the walls out of spite. The cure required a specific ritual: boiling fern root, washing all the dishes, and reciting a prayer backward at midnight. Whether any of this worked is not recorded. What is recorded is that people kept doing it. The Norse called it the mare, the English called it the night hag, Germans had the Nachtmar, the Zulu have the Tokoloshi, the Japanese have the Kanashibari. Every culture found something sitting on the chest. They just argued about what it wanted. Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga is the only villain in world folklore who heroes deliberately seek out for help. In Slavic fairy tales, when a hero needs to find a magic horse, a lost kingdom, or a path through the underworld, they don't avoid Baba Yaga. They go looking for her. She lives alone in a hut on chicken legs, deep in the forest at the border between the living world and the dead. She knows everything, and she'll either help you or eat you. The catch: you never know which until you're already inside. The strangeness isn't the hut. It's the logic. In most tales, she bathes the hero, feeds them, and gives them exactly what they need, after testing whether they came with a purpose or just wandered in by accident. She punishes weakness and cowardice. She rewards directness. By the rules of the story, she isn't evil. She's a gatekeeper. Folklorists classify Baba Yaga as a donor figure, a character whose role is to equip the hero, not defeat them. The same archetype appears in Norse mythology as the wise giant Mimir, in Greek myth as the blind Tiresias, even in fairy tales as far east as Japan. The terrifying old woman at the edge of the world who holds the answer is not a Slavic invention. She's a human universal. Her name adds another layer. Baba, in Old Slavic, simply meant old woman or grandmother. Yaga likely traces back to a Proto-Slavic root meaning something close to horror or illness. But also, in some dialects, strength, grandmother horror, or grandmother strength. Slavic mythology left the ambiguity completely intact, and that's the point. In a world of clear heroes and clear monsters, Baba Yaga answers to no one. Not the hero who needs her, not the villain she resembles, not even the story she's in. The Firebird. Nobody in Slavic mythology actually wants to catch the Firebird. They want one of its feathers. The Firebird appears in Russian fairy tales as a creature of impossible beauty, a bird with plumage that glows like burning coals, each feather bright enough to light a room. Kings send heroes to capture it, and almost every hero, given the chance, lets it go, because the bird itself is useless. What matters is the feather it leaves behind. A single glowing quill that grants wishes, reveals truth, or lights the way through darkness, depending on the tale. The Firebird is one of the stranger quest objects in world mythology. The mission is to catch something, and the reward is failing to catch it completely. The quests around the Firebird follow a recognizable pattern. Find the bird, lose the bird, find something better because you lost the bird. In one of the most common versions, a hero stumbles on a fallen feather at the start. A wise advisor warns him not to pick it up. He picks it up. Everything that follows, the impossible tasks, the ocean voyage, the fire-jumping horse, happens because he couldn't leave a shiny thing on the ground. Scholars link the Firebird to a cluster of firebirds found across Eurasian mythology: the Persian Simurgh, the Greek phoenix, the Hindu Garuda. All of them share the same core: a bird made of light or fire that exists just beyond human reach and transforms whoever gets close enough to touch it. The Slavic version strips the transformation down to its minimum. You don't need the bird, you don't need to defeat it or tame it. You just need one feather, dropped by accident, found by someone who probably should have walked past. The fire was always right there on the ground. Most people just didn't bother to look down. The Leshy. The Leshy is the spirit of the forest, and no two sources agree on what it looks like. In Slavic folklore, the Leshy is the master of every forest it inhabits. It controls the animals, moves the paths, and makes travelers walk in circles until they collapse or go mad. But unlike most supernatural creatures, it has no fixed form. It can appear as a peasant with his coat buttoned on the wrong side, as a giant taller than the oldest trees, as a small child sitting in the branches, or as a whirlwind of leaves. The only consistent detail across hundreds of regional accounts: it is always slightly wrong. The shoes are on the wrong feet. The shadow falls in the wrong direction. The eyes don't blink. This shapeshifting isn't a power. It's a description of what a forest actually is. Every forest is different. A spirit that governs one cannot look the same as a spirit that governs another. Russian ethnographers in the 19th century, collecting accounts from villages across thousands of kilometers, found that local descriptions of the Leshy contradicted each other completely and confidently. Peasants from neighboring villages argued about what it looked like as if disputing a fact. The Leshy sits in a tradition of forest guardians found across northern Eurasia: the Finnish Tapio, the Siberian Koschei, the Germanic Wildman. All of them are defined less by appearance than by behavior. They punish those who take too much from the forest and protect those who show respect. The rules for surviving an encounter are simple and universal. Don't whistle in the forest, don't boast about how much game you've killed, and if you get lost, take off all your clothes, turn them inside out, and put them back on. Whether this cures the Leshy's confusion about you or just makes you too strange to bother with, the old accounts don't say. The Rusalka. The Rusalka is not a mermaid. She was a person first. In Slavic folklore, a Rusalka is the spirit of a woman who died violently near water, drowned, murdered, or driven to suicide, usually by a man. She doesn't grant wishes or sing sailors to their doom for sport. She pulls men underwater because she is bound to. The folklore is explicit. A Rusalka cannot rest until the person responsible for her death is dead too, or until the correct mourning rites are performed. She is not a monster. She is an unfinished death. The physical descriptions vary by region. In southern Slavic traditions, Rusalki are terrifying, pale, wild-haired, with the blank eyes of the drowned. In northern traditions, they're sometimes described as beautiful and playful, luring victims through dance rather than force. But across all versions, the same rule applies. If a Rusalka touches you, you drown, on land or in water. The element doesn't matter. The Rusalka has a specific grievance. Sirens destroy anyone who gets close. Banshees announce death without causing it. The Rusalka targets. She has someone in mind. Russian ethnographic records from the 19th century describe entire village rituals. Rusalka Week, held at the start of summer, designed to appease the spirits of women who died without justice, to give them enough peace to leave the living alone until next year. The closest parallel in world mythology is the Japanese Onryo, a spirit of a wronged woman, bound to the world by unresolved rage, capable of killing even those who had nothing to do with her death. The Rusalka and the Onryo came from completely different cultures, thousands of kilometers apart. They arrived at the same answer. Some deaths don't stay finished. The Domovoy. The Domovoy is the spirit that lives in your house. It protects your family, and if you move without telling it, it will kill your livestock. In Slavic tradition, every household has a Domovoy, a small, hairy humanoid spirit tied to the hearth, usually invisible, occasionally glimpsed as a shadow near the stove or a shape under the threshold. It keeps the house in order, warns of danger before it arrives, and guards the family while they sleep. In exchange, the family leaves out bread and salt, speaks respectfully near the hearth, and, crucially, follows the correct procedure when moving to a new home. That procedure matters. You do not simply leave. You invite the Domovoy to follow you. There is a specific ritual. You carry a clay pot with burning coals from the old hearth to the new one, and formally ask the spirit to come with you into the new home. Families who skipped this step reported exactly the same outcomes across centuries of ethnographic records. The animals in the new house sickened, objects moved on their own, sleep became impossible. The Domovoy did not follow, and the old one, abandoned, unhomed, turned hostile. The Domovoy is different from every other household spirit in the world. The Roman Lares, the Norse Tomt, the Scottish Brownie, all of them are attached to a place. The Domovoy is attached to a family. It follows people, not walls, which means it can be lost or left behind, or offended into becoming something dangerous. Ethnographers note that beliefs about the Domovoy were among the most consistent and widespread in all of Slavic folk religion, more universal than beliefs about any forest spirit, river spirit, or god. Everyone had one. Everyone knew the rules. The rules were simple enough. The mystery is how many people, moving from house to house across a continent, kept forgetting to say goodbye.